You tap your phone and like 10 minutes later, a bag of coffee beans is just sitting at your front door.
Right. It feels like magic.
It really does. But behind that single tap is this ruthless, hyper-optimized, $500 million logistical war zone. And today, we are going to deconstruct exactly how that modern magic trick actually works.
Because it's not magic. It's just really, really intense engineering.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to explore a highly detailed development blueprint. It's essentially an insider's guide on how to build a Blinkit clone app from the ground up.
Yeah, but we are absolutely not just going to talk about software today.
No, definitely not. We are taking this technical architecture and using it to like completely reverse engineer the entire quick commerce business model.
Because when you look under the hood of these 10-minute delivery empires, the mobile app sitting on your phone is really just the digital storefront. I mean, it is the cheapest, easiest part of the equation. Yep. The true engineering marvel is the invisible physical infrastructure operating in your neighborhood. That's what makes that 10-minute promise mathematically possible.
Oh, for sure. So whether you are an entrepreneur looking to disrupt the retail space, maybe a systems architect fascinated by high-pressure logistics, or just, insanely curious about how your ice cream arrives before it even starts to melt, this is your ultimate insider's perspective. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Starting with just the sheer scale of the quick commerce battlefield. And to understand the mechanics, we kind of have to look at the current epicenter of this industry, which is the Indian market.
Oh, absolutely. It's operating as this massive, high-stakes testing ground for hyperlocal delivery. It's the perfect ecosystem to analyze.
Yeah.
The data outlines a fiercely contested landscape, and it's largely dominated by Blinkit. Many people might actually remember them as grofers before their massive pivot to the 10-minute model.
Right, the grofers rebrand.
Yeah. And right now, Blinkit commands roughly a 45% market share, which is huge. And the infrastructure required to hold that pole position is just staggering.
I mean, they are operating in over 200 cities, relying on a vast network of more than 2,200 micro-fulfillment centers. 2,000!
Yeah, the operational density is incredible.
It really makes total sense why Zomato absorbed them in that massive all-stock acquisition. What was it, valued at around $568 million?
Roughly, yeah.
Because that wasn't just buying an app, that was buying a massive footprint of localized real estate and supply chain dominance.
Exactly. But even with a $500 million acquisition and that massive footprint, Blinkit is fighting tooth and nail for every single order. I mean, Zepto is right on their heels.
Oh, Zepto is fascinating here.
Yeah, they're holding about a 21% market share, and they are operating just over 1,000 active stores. But what is truly fascinating about Zepto's position is their user retention and satisfaction.
Because they actually edge out Blinkit slightly in metrics, right?
They do. They hold a 4.7 app rating compared to Blinkit's 4.5. And that is before you even factor in heavily capitalized competitors like Swiggy, Instamart, and Big Basket Now. They're all fighting for the exact same demographic.
Right. So knowing that, looking at these absolute giants just bleeding capital to win a single neighborhood, the obvious question is how a new business could even dream of entering this space.
Yeah, it seems impossible.
It really does. And the shortcut outlined in the technical architecture we're looking at is the concept of a clone app.
Right.
Rather than hiring a team of engineers to reinvent the wheel for, 2 years, you purchase a ready-made, white-label software platform designed to basically mimic the core infrastructure of an established app like Blinkit.
Which accelerates the timeline dramatically. You are deploying pre-tested code that already contains the complex architecture you need. Stuff for personalized ordering, smart search filters, high-volume transaction processing.
So you just skip the hard part?
Pretty much. For a new business, this means bypassing that standard trial and error phase of software development. You get rapid market entry. And the back-end architecture of these clone scripts is built specifically to scale.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning it can handle thousands of concurrent users, dynamically onboard delivery partners, and integrate diverse vendor catalogs without the servers melting down.
Okay, but wait. Here's what bothers me about the clone shortcut, though.
What's that?
If I can buy this exact same robust tech stack off the shelf for a few $1,000s tomorrow, so can my neighbor, and so can 50 other venture-backed startups. I mean, if the barrier to entry for the software is practically zero, wouldn't we just be in a race to the bottom with dozens of identical apps?
Right.
Where is the actual competitive advantage?
That is the crucial insight here. That's what separates successful quick commerce companies from the ones that burn through their funding in 6 months.
Okay.
The app is just the tip of the iceberg. Your competitive advantage, your true moat, does not live in the code base.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It lives entirely in the physical world. Specifically, it lives in the brutal efficiency of the dark store.
Ah, right. The dark store. I mean, we all know the concept of a dark store by now, a retail space closed to the public. But what's genuinely shocking in this blueprint is the extreme physical constraints of these specific 10-minute models.
Oh, yeah, they are tiny.
We aren't talking about massive Amazon fulfillment centers on the outskirts of town. We are talking about spaces that are strictly limited to like 200 to 500 square feet, wedged right into the middle of dense residential neighborhoods.
And those spatial constraints dictate everything about the business model. Inside that tiny footprint, a dark store holds a meticulously curated inventory of roughly 1,500 to 2,500 highly specific products.
So you can't just stock everything.
Exactly. Every single item has to earn its place on the shelf through high turnover rates. And structurally, each of these hyperlocal hubs is geofenced to service a maximum radius of just 2 to 3 kilometers.
Okay, so we shouldn't think of this as a mini grocery store. It's actually more like a Formula One pit stop.
I love that analogy.
Right, because the physical layout isn't designed for discovery or browsing. The aisles aren't wide. It's strictly optimized for a human picker to grab a carton of milk, a bunch of bananas, and an iPhone charger in under 30 seconds.
That analogy is spot on. Every centimeter of that 500 square foot room is mathematically organized to shave seconds off the picking process. And this leads to one of these most counterintuitive architectural recommendations for anyone entering this space.
Which is?
The engineering blueprint insists that you must build and perfect the dark store management system, the back-end warehouse software, long before you focus on polishing the customer-facing app.
Wow. Which completely flips traditional app development on its head.
It does.
Usually startups obsess over the user interface, the animations, the onboarding flow.
Right, the pretty stuff.
Exactly. But here, if the warehouse software isn't flawless, the beautiful customer app is essentially useless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fast delivery fails without smooth warehouse ops. The dark store management system is the brain of the operation. We are talking about real-time inventory tracking that communicates instantly with the main database.
Right.
Predictive low stock alerts that trigger restocking before an item runs out. And most importantly, the user interface for the pickers themselves.
Right, because that picker's interface isn't just a digital grocery list. It has to dynamically map the most efficient physical walking path through those specific aisles.
Yes.
If an order comes in for 5 items, the software calculates the exact sequence the picker should walk so they never have to backtrack.
Because if a staff member spends 3 minutes searching for a specific brand of peanut butter, your 10-minute delivery promise is already mathematically impossible.
Wow, yeah. And that operational pressure forces businesses to think very carefully about how they structure their real estate.
It really does.
The source mentions there are 3 primary ownership models for these dark stores, and each has its own risk profile. You can own the dark stores outright, which, requires massive upfront capital.
Huge capital. But it gives you absolute dictatorial control over the layout, the inventory, and the picking speed.
Right. Or if you don't have the cash to sign hundreds of commercial leases, you partner with existing local shop owners.
Yeah, the partnership model.
You use their back rooms as your micro-fulfillment centers. It allows for incredibly fast geographic scaling, but you immediately sacrifice a degree of control over inventory accuracy.
And picking efficiency.
Right.
And then the third path is a hybrid mix. You strategically own stores in ultra-high demand zones where you need maximum efficiency while using partner stores to test the waters in newer, lower density neighborhoods.
Makes sense.
But no matter which model you choose, the picking process is really only the first half of the equation.
Which brings us to the actual delivery. Because even if your F1 pit stop functions perfectly and the items are bagged in 30 seconds, that speed is entirely useless if the rider is stuck at a red light or gets lost in an apartment complex.
Exactly. That introduces the absolute hardest math problem in quick commerce, the unforgiving logistics of hyperlocal delivery.
Yeah, how does that work compared to normal shipping?
Well, it is a completely different logistical philosophy than traditional e-commerce. Traditional delivery models like next-day or 2-day shipping are built on bulk routing. A driver loads 50 packages and follows a calculated meandering route over the course of 8 hours.
Right, the typical delivery truck.
Yeah. Quick commerce is the exact opposite. It is about real-time, point-to-point, shortest distance dispatch. It is one rider,
Yeah.
one order, moving as fast as physically possible.
And the technology stack required to facilitate that point-to-point routing without just crashing the system is intense.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at the recommended architecture for the mobile applications themselves, the industry standard relies heavily on cross-platform frameworks like React Native or Flutter.
Right, which allows developers to maintain a single code base for both iOS and Android, essential for pushing out rapid updates.
But the real magic happens in the database architecture, right? Specifically the interplay between PostgreSQL and Redis.
Yes, that specific database combination is the lifeblood of the operation. PostgreSQL serves as the primary relational database. It is the absolute source of truth.
Okay.
It handles the heavy transactional data, verifying user identities, securely processing payments, and permanently logging order histories. But PostgreSQL alone is too slow for quick commerce.
Right, because if the app has to ping the main PostgreSQL database and ask, do we have whole milk in stock at this specific dark store? Every single time a user opens the app, that query might take 1 or 2 seconds to resolve.
Exactly. And in an industry where you have exactly 120 seconds to dispatch an order, a 2-second database lag across thousands of concurrent users literally destroys the delivery promise.
Wow.
This is exactly why Redis is implemented. Redis is an in-memory data structure store. So instead of querying the main server, Redis caches the frequently accessed data, like the real-time inventory of a specific dark store, locally and in memory.
So it's basically a super fast shortcut.
Exactly. It reduces the data retrieval time from seconds to milliseconds. To the customer, the app feels completely instantaneous. Add WebSockets into the mix for real-time two-way communication between the dark store, the writer, and the customer.
Right.
And integrate robust mapping APIs like Google Maps or MapMyIndia for dynamic road optimization. And you have a system actually capable of handling the pressure.
And we really can't gloss over the Writer app in all of this. I mean, the delivery partners are flying blind without specialized software.
Oh, completely.
Their interface has to be stripped down and highly functional. It provides turn-by-turn route optimization that accounts for real-time traffic, a transparent dashboard for tracking their live earnings per delivery, and seamless proof of delivery mechanisms.
Every single micro interaction on their screen is designed to save 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there.
Which is absolutely necessary because the performance metrics required to survive in this industry are brutal.
They are.
Before a company even thinks about expanding into a second city, they have to prove their system works in a highly controlled beta zone. And the golden metrics they must achieve in that test zone leave zero room for error.
Let's talk about those golden metrics.
Yeah. The first one is the dispatch time. Order to dispatch must happen in under 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Just think about that. The moment your thumb hits the pay button, the transaction clears, the dark store receives the alert, the UI routes the picker through the aisles, the items are scanned, bagged, and handed to a rider who is already queued up at the door. All in under 120 seconds.
It requires extreme synchronization. And then comes the second metric, the transit time. Dispatch to delivery must consistently clock in under 8 minutes.
Under 8 minutes on the road.
Combined with a mandate for 98% or higher order accuracy. The reality is, if a platform cannot hit those specific numbers consistently in a single neighborhood, scaling up will only multiply their failures.
But looking at those strict constraints, I keep thinking about the overwhelming temptation for a startup to bend their own rules just to show growth to their investors.
Oh, the temptation is always there.
Right. Let's say you have an optimized dark store, and someone living just a few streets outside that strict 3-kilometer geofence wants to place a massive high-margin grocery order. Doesn't the business want that revenue? Why rely on such rigid geofencing to actively block paying customers?
It seems counterintuitive to turn away money, right?
Yeah.
But it fundamentally comes down to consumer psychology and brand trust. Promising delivery outside of your mathematically proven coverage area destroys the single core product you are actually selling, which is the 10-minute guarantee.
Because by trying to capture that one customer 4 kilometers away, you cannibalize the core promise for the 10 customers who actually live inside your zone.
Exactly. If you accept that out-of-zone order, the rider is going to take 20 or 25 minutes to complete the round trip. Now, to a traditional grocery delivery service, 20 minutes is a phenomenal achievement.
Oh, yeah, people would love that.
But to a customer who opened your app specifically because you promised 10 minutes, it is a catastrophic failure.
Right.
It leads to terrible app reviews, destroyed customer trust, plunging retention rates. Furthermore, while that rider is stuck in transit for 25 minutes, they aren't available to take the next 3 orders that pop up inside the actual geofence.
So the backlog just compounds instantly.
Yes. In quick commerce, it is infinitely better for long-term survival to say no to a customer outside your zone than to say yes and deliver late.
So the hyper-fast speed is completely non-negotiable. It's the baseline. But that presents a massive strategic problem.
How so?
Well, if Blinkit, Zepto, and Swiggy Instamart are all using this exact same hyper-local logic, and they are all hitting those same golden metrics of under 2 minutes for dispatch and under 8 minutes for delivery, then speed is no longer special. Speed is just table stakes. So how does a new entrant even begin to stand out? How do they carve out a unique selling proposition in a market where everyone is already operating at the absolute physical limit of speed?
That is the ultimate reality check for this business model. You cannot outspeed the incumbents. Your USP has to be rooted in operational differentiation. You have to change what you sell or where you sell it.
And the architectural blueprint highlights some brilliant differentiation strategies for this.
It does.
Instead of trying to build the everything store and competing directly with Blinkit's massive catalog, you pivot to a hyper-specific niche. You configure the Clone app to strictly handle organic local produce or exclusively halal groceries, or dedicate the entire dark store entirely to premium pet supplies. You win on depth of category rather than breadth.
And geographic differentiation is equally viable. The massive players are locked in a vicious turf war over ultra-dense metropolitan centers.
Right.
A smart new entrant can bypass that bloodbath entirely by deploying their dark stores in Tier 2 or Tier 3 cities, areas with enough population density to support the model, but which have been largely ignored by the venture-backed giants.
You can also differentiate by tweaking the operational rules. The major apps often enforce minimum cart values to ensure profitability on every run.
True.
But a new player could intentionally allow smaller, low-value orders, like delivering a single box of painkillers and a bottle of water, to capture a demographic that the big platforms just reject outright. Or you commit heavily to local sourcing, integrating your supply chain directly with regional farms so your produce is demonstrably fresher than the multinational competitors.
But, any of these strategies require an exhaustive understanding of the local market realities. It is never just plug and play.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if your strategy involves fresh produce or cold chain logistics, you are immediately subject to complex, localized municipal regulations. Things regarding food storage, refrigeration standards, health inspections inside those tiny dark stores.
Yeah. And it goes way beyond just health codes, right? When you analyze markets like India, you see these massive quick commerce platforms facing intense organized scrutiny from traditional retail associations.
Oh, it is a significant factor. Groups representing traditional neighborhood stores, the local kirana shops, have heavily criticized the pricing strategies and the aggressive expansion of platforms like Blinkit and Zepto.
Right. And just to be clear for the listener, we aren't taking a stance on this either way. We're just reporting what's in the source material. But they argue that the venture-subsidized pricing and rapid delivery models create an uneven playing field.
Exactly. Understanding these deep-rooted industry tensions and potential regulatory hurdles is absolutely vital for a new business. You are deploying software, yes, but you are colliding directly with the established physical retail economy of that region.
That's a great point. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's transition from the theory to the hard numbers and talk about the actual cost of footing the bill for this technology.
Let's look at the money.
Because while utilizing a clone architecture is vastly cheaper than hiring an in-house development team for 2 years, it certainly isn't free.
No, definitely not free. The financial investment for the software stack is generally broken down into 3 distinct tiers, depending on the complexity and scale the business requires. The entry-level option is the basic app tier.
Okay.
This typically takes about 6 to 10 weeks to deploy and requires a capital investment ranging from $10,000 to $40,000.
So buying the tech is basically like buying a house. That $10K to $40K basic package is your starter home. It keeps the rain out and it covers the absolute necessities. You get basic user registration, simple payment gateway integration, rudimentary order tracking, and a functional delivery management dashboard.
It works, but it's bare bones. Exactly. For a startup looking to truly compete, they almost immediately have to move up to the advanced app tier, which runs roughly $40,000 to $80,000.
Right, so now you are adding the renovated kitchen and the nice landscaping. At this price point, the codebase includes live GPS order tracking for the customer, tailored product suggestions based on purchase history, secure in-app messaging between the customer and the rider, and integrated loyalty programs to drive that crucial retention rate.
And finally, you have the ultra-modern custom tier. This is a massive leap in both time and capital. It requires 4 to 8 months of dedicated development time, and the cost easily ranges from $80,000 to well over $150,000.
Wow. That is a fully automated, futuristic smart home.
Yep.
We're talking about deep machine learning integration. The app features AI-generated product recommendations that anticipate your grocery needs based on algorithmic consumption patterns, seamless voice-activated search functionalities, and predictive, hyper-local delivery optimization baked directly into the highest level of the server architecture.
It is incredibly sophisticated technology, but we have to circle all the way back to the core thesis of this entire blueprint.
Right.
It does not matter if a business spends $10,000 on a starter app or $150,000 on an AI-driven masterpiece. The software alone will never save a company if their physical dark store operations fail to hit those golden metrics.
So what does this all mean for us? When we synthesize the tech stacks, the geofencing, the dark store constraints, and the capital investments, what is the fundamental truth of the quick commerce industry?
The fundamental truth is that a quick commerce app is not a software product. It is a highly aggressive logistics and supply chain company wearing a sleek digital trench coat.
I love that.
The app itself, the code, the user interface, the animations, it's highly replicable, is relatively cheap to acquire. But the flawless operational execution, the hyper-local dark stores optimized like pit stops, the strict 2-minute dispatch times, the ruthless discipline of geofencing that physical orchestration is the actual product being sold.
It completely changes how you look at the convenience we take for granted every single day. The next time you open an app, tap a button, and have a bag of coffee handed to you 10 minutes later, you will know exactly what it took to make that happen.
Yeah, it isn't just an app.
No, it is a highly synchronized ballet of database caching, localized real estate strategy, and intense human effort, all operating on a razor-thin margin of error.
It truly is an incredible logistical achievement. It redefines consumer expectations, but more importantly, it is quietly restructuring the urban environment right under our noses.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over today. If the entire foundation of this 10-minute delivery model relies entirely on packing thousands upon thousands of tiny 500-square-foot invisible warehouses into almost densely populated neighborhoods, how long until these dark stores completely rewrite the physical geography, the commercial real estate, and the very fabric of the cities we live in? Keep digging deeper.